Hello, hello, and welcome to Ley Lines, Conscious Conversations and Connections with incredible people that are doing exceptional things around the globe for humanity. Today, I am going to be speaking with Jess from Maternal Grounding. This Maternal Grounding is a company that is based on the Gold Coast, and they have both mobile and in-house healing, doing massage for pregnant women, both pre having their babies and also postpartum. Also, Jess is in the throngs of doing a course up at the moment, and she also is about to start a podcast, which is all about birth trauma. So, we're going to be speaking into that more today. We'll be talking as to why she has decided to do this, what her whys are, what her five non negotiables are. And I am really interested in what she has to say, especially for all of you mothers and fathers out there that have experienced at some stage birth trauma. So, before we start, I will be telling you all about the intuitive oil that I've chosen today. Well, I didn't choose, Spirit chose for me. And the oil that came up for Jess today was cassia. This is Cassia here. Cassia reminds me of a cinnamon donut. For some people, they can find her quite offensive. For others, they just find her delicious. I think of her as a beautiful, warm blanket being thrown over me. And I absolutely love cinnamon donuts. So, yep, it's the perfect oil for me. Now, there are always emotional, physical, and also spiritual meanings behind these oils. And when I work with people, they are very appropriate when either their body asks for them when I'm doing a balance or I intuitively choose the oils. It's usually exactly what a person needs. So I am going to my most trusty and loved book, Essential Emotions, just to give you a little bit of an insight into cassia. And as you are listening to Jess today, you'll have those aha moments of this is why Cassia has chosen Jess during this podcast today. Cassia is similar to cinnamon. Cassia dispels fear and replaces it with assurance. It challenges individuals to try even when they are afraid of making mistakes. Cassia aids those who feel foolish by helping them see their own brilliance. It supports the soul in seeing its own value and potential. Cassia assists individuals in discovering their innate gifts and talents. It invites them to let their light shine and live from their true self. So, as we listen to Jess today, and she is one of the most beautiful, gentle, loving women I have ever met, you will see why Cassia has come to her because this is what is going to make her brave. This is what is going to make her the most powerful advocate as she goes and supports people in a very safe space with their birth trauma. So just wait one moment and we'll have the beautiful Jess from Maternal Grounding popping on to Ley Lines. So I've already done a brief introduction, but I just want to welcome you, Jess. Thank you so much for coming and sharing some really incredible messages. We've already had a bit of a talk this morning, haven't we? I wish I had had it on record right from the start. So this is Jess from Maternal Grounding. There are going to be people that are watching this podcast that have actually felt the magic of Jess, whether it's you've spoken to her or you have had the opportunity to have an incredible pregnancy massage or postpartum massage, or your babies have been massaged. So, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm
Good.
excited too.
Yeah.
Just the little talk that we had before, there is a lot to pack into this particular podcast. A lot of really important messages that need to be placed out there into the universe. And, I'm making this also a manifesting platform for you, Jess, so that you can go and make all of these things that you have in the works at the moment come to fruition. So I'm going to start asking you, just chucking questions at you now,
Cool.
especially to start with about your business. So, how long has maternal grounding been around for?
Nearly 6 years now. November, it'll be 6 years.
Yes. And that came to fruition because was there a particular reason that you decided?
Yeah, after the birth of my daughter, had realised that there just wasn't much care for women during pregnancy, postpartum, motherhood. And I still remember it was when I'd had an emergency cesarean with her and went to the 6 week checkup. And I said to the doctor, right, so what do I do now? Knowing, I just had major abdominal surgery, and what do I do to process this? And he's like, just do some crunches and you'll be all right. And I was like, is this guy for real?
Wow.
And I was like, there's just no knowledge that your doctors were passing on to women that have just been through pregnancy, postpartum, and how the recovery can happen and how rehabilitation is so important. No matter how you birth, the body has been through a huge journey. You have grown a human life, and yeah, I just found that I was like, this is what I need to do. So I'd already done massage and personal training, but then I went on to do further with pregnancy, postpartum training.
Because I've heard and I've read that it takes up to 5 years for our body to actually fully recover
Yeah.
from the birth of one child. And, most of us, I know I did, I just went pop, pop and pop my children out one after the other, giving my body no recovery at all. And, then we're looking at all of these muscles having to go and somehow get them to work again afterwards, and everything to do with everything else in our body that has gone south as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So I know that you're very, very busy. At the moment, there are how many of you working with maternal grounding?
So there's 3 of us in total. So we have 2 mobile massage therapists for the Gold Coast, and then we also have the clinic where 2 of us are rotating in and out of there.
And where is your clinic?
It is at I'm Healing in Coomera. That's where we work out of.
Yeah, much to Sonia.
Yes, and that's how I remember I first met you, because you were dropping your teas in there. Yes, yeah. So I remember, yeah, that's when I first met you.
I definitely wasn't getting a pregnancy massage.
No, you weren't.
Very, very long time
Yeah.
ago. But I do remember when I met you, just how beautiful and gentle and kind and just how lovely you were straight away. And it's been wonderful that we've sort of continued a friendship.
Yeah.
And you've been able to experience having Symphony of the Cells.
Yes.
And I think you
Yes.
still have to come to something else, don't you?
Oh, I don't know. Time.
Yes, yes. So, from you're the managing director of
Yes.
Maternal Grounding, and you, as you said, you work with both pregnancy and postpartum,
Yes.
and then you also do, and I just think this would be the cutest, once a month, yes, at Helensvale,
Yes.
baby massage, and I just, oh my gosh, that just melts my heart. I'm not really a baby person anymore, but I saw a video the other day of you teaching, and all of these little people, and they're all getting rubbed, and I mean, I love a massage.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't a baby? So your beautiful son Hawaii, you've put up a few videos of you massaging him. Tell
Yes.
us, what are the benefits of baby massage?
Benefits of baby massage are huge, and I don't think this country, Australia, goes into the depth of it. It is well known in other countries, but it started from India, and what I have experienced with my son was, so my son has cerebral palsy, and he had quite a few things happen, and I was practicing massage on him a lot. And so at one of his MRIs of his brain when he was about 6 weeks old, they had said there was this matter that had appeared on his brain, and they didn't know what it was. Then they also said the myelination hadn't grown to where it should have been, and that's what signals to your body. And I was like, okay, so what do we do now? And they were like, nothing, just let him be a baby. And I'm so coming from massage therapist, personal trainer background, I'm going, I don't think so. Like what he had been through, it's like not going to do anything. So I started massaging him every day, just for 5 to 10 minutes, just stimulating that brain. And the next MRI, that matter had disappeared from his brain, and the myelination had grown to where it should be. I can't take away, like, I'm not saying I cannot take away cerebral palsy, I can't take away brain damage, but we have been able to give him a more fulfilling life to what should have happened from the damage that was done. So we have what the benefits for my son are huge for the brain because it is neuroplastic, the plasticity, and what can happen to that and changing the pathways in his brain.
That's right. We just don't even realize
No.
the true benefits of touch.
Yeah.
It is so important, and there's been so many studies shown with premies, because he was also a premie, wasn't
Correct.
he?
Yep.
That touch and the swaddling, placing them skin on skin, all of those things help in their growth, in their healing. And so I absolutely understand
Yeah.
why you do this, but also why you've got a bit of a passion for it as well. It's a beautiful way
Huge.
too for women to bond with their children.
And bonding takes time. For bonding, it doesn't just happen overnight. Like the studies have shown that it creates the bonding with your child, but it takes time, just like attachment can as well. It creates, all of those bonding attachment, but developing their sensories, muscle development, helping, you know, with sickness and, brain development. There are just so many aspects that it can help with your baby. Like it's astronomical,
Yes.
really.
Yeah.
Huge, huge.
All right. So you've just touched briefly on Hawaii. And this is something that I really want to speak into today. This is something that I've been promoting on my socials, that I really want to be able to delve a little bit deeper into with you, Jess.
Mm.
And I'm sure that there's been bucket loads of tears over the last few years.
Yeah.
But we're going to get through this today because you are going and doing something that for one, I just admire you so much for what you're about to go and aspire to and create. So Jess is she's going to be doing podcasts just like me, but not doing the same thing as
Yeah.
me, as in the same thing. Jess is going to be speaking about birth trauma and coming from a point of view of actually experiencing birth trauma with her son Hawaii. And so I want you to give me just a little step by step of what actually happened, keeping within the parameters of what you can
Yes.
and cannot say, so that people can understand. But we'll speak a little bit further into it because, especially what Jess has to tell you, and I will not take anything away from what you're going to talk about, but you may think that Jess's story is huge and think there is no way that I have birth trauma. But we actually discussed beforehand, and I talked a little bit about just my birth experience, and she said, Sam, that is birth trauma. So I want to leave a little bit of time for you
Mhm.
now to talk about your experience with Hawaii.
Yeah. So when he had arrived a couple of weeks, not a couple of weeks, sorry, he was a few weeks early. So he was at 34.6. And the day that I had gone into labour, we had gone to hospital and they said, yes, you're in active labour. We will prep you for your cesarean because with my daughter, I had actually broken my pelvis in a car accident 13 years prior to her. And when I had her, my pelvis wouldn't open up and I had torn part of the uterus, etc. And I had to have a cesarean. It was on my file. So it was great. Went in, yep, we're going to prep you for theatre. And then another obstetrician walks in and views me and wheels us off to a room. And we're like, what's going on? And she said, you're going to birth this baby naturally. And I said, no, we're not. Like it's on my file. I have to have a cesarean. Anyway, so even though we tried, my husband stood up and said, what are you doing? She has to have a cesarean. And I said, no, you're not. You're having this baby naturally. Mm. So our power that day was definitely taken away from us. And further on to that, when Hawaii had arrived, he had fallen to the floor and hit his head. But the cord had snapped, but his APGARs were 0 on arrival. He was 0. He was not here. So he was brought back to life and taken straight away to ICU, had to get a blood transfusion, and he was scanned on his head via ultrasound, and there was bleeding in the head, but not in the brain. And we've just spent a lot of time, fighting for him. On day 5 of his life, that he was finally allowed to go for an MRI, and there was brain damage. So he had a brain injury from birth, and which has now been diagnosed with cerebral palsy. He is also a little person, so
He's so beautiful.
and when I say little, it's like he has dwarfism. It's achondroplasia. And if any of you who are listening has met my husband, he's 6'3", and I'm not.
You're not tiny.
No, I'm not short. Like I'm a normal one, short. So it obviously wasn't inherited, but there were a lot of events that happened that day, and unimaginable things had happened. And when medical intervention is needed for a cesarean, that's what needs to happen. As I work in the birthing, realm, and I'm 100% for home births, and a lot of women that we look after are going through home births, free birthing, and that's amazing. But when medical intervention is needed, medical intervention is needed. And so following on through that, we have a claim against the hospital for medical negligence. I just couldn't let it go.
And absolutely, why would you let it go?
It was the handling of it. So many different things happened that day, which we can't go into too much detail. So that's why I just have to be careful with what I say, just being real and raw. But yeah, and whilst this is also for my son and our family, because he will suffer his entire life with cerebral palsy because of them. This is also for so many other families that have been through this. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and tell me their story, and I'm just gobsmacked with the way that the hospital system can treat women and families and babies. So we're going to fight them for it because it's wrong. What they did was so, so wrong.
Yeah, and I think especially for you, you're such a huge advocate for women
That's right.
and for families
Yep.
because although you're looking after women, there is a husband, a
That's
partner,
right. Yeah.
someone there on the side as well. And I would imagine that hasn't just been something that has affected you as a woman birthing this child. This has affected your entire family, your entire world. And you put up a story this morning, and Hawke was basically in and out of or in hospital for most of his first year of life and was fighting for his life. But as I was saying to Jess, and she was also saying, she was actually fighting for her own life as well. The places that you would have gone, those dark places that you would have gone, would have been. I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine to look at you and see this powerful, just empowered woman. I take off my hat to you for who you are, considering what has happened to you.
Yeah.
And to Hawaii and to your whole family.
It was. I remember my daughter saying, it might have been a few months ago, and she said to me, Mummy, I can't stop thinking about Hawaii being in hospital all the time. How do I make it stop?
Oh, baby.
Because he was in hospital so much, and he had 6 emergency brain surgeries before he was 1. And our home hospital was Queensland Children's Hospital, and then my husband and my daughter would come up and they would stay at the Ronald McDonald House every weekend to try and see us. So it's been a huge impact on everyone. Marriage has nearly been over multiple times. Like just saying it takes a lot out of you fighting for so much, and just everyone having different perspectives as well, which is normal. But when it's your child going through this because of the hands of someone else, it's really hard to deal with.
Yes. And so, from this experience that has happened to you, you have decided to go and make a difference.
Yeah.
So you've decided that you are going to, there's a number of things that you are in the process of creating at the moment. Would you like to have, I'd love everyone to know what it is that you are doing. This is so important for all of you mamas out there. This is something that could save your life. I want to look at it like that because Jess was going through so much in her own mind throughout this, and the pain you would have felt for your child, for your family, for yourself, for having to go through this experience has all gone and created. And they always say that our challenges can create the most spectacular version of ourselves. So what are you in the throngs of doing at the moment?
So at the moment, I am designing a online program for women, families who have been through birth trauma, and it is for the survival of birth trauma. I spent when Hawaii was in hospital and he was asleep, I was at night studying different holistic therapies, and just to try and save me, to try and get through this situation. I I didn't know at the time why I happened to be studying practitioner levels, every single one of
Oh,
them.
wow.
So, and now it all makes sense that it was to compile everything, all of my research data, everything I've learned, all my workshops, and compile everything into one
No
space.
coincidence.
Yeah, like it's
No
like I
coincidence.
was like, why are you doing this? And now I'm like, oh, all right, that's why it was setting you up from the start. And it's for the whole family. It's especially at those times when you don't have time to go see a counselor or a psychologist or to
Mm.
remove yourself from your child. So I was practicing these practices whilst he was asleep.
And sometimes you're not in the headspace to go and
No,
see a
and I
psychologist.
wasn't. Like I am now. I am now seeing a psychologist because we've been through so much. And I'm not saying that, that's not needed, because it is. That's also needed if that suits you at the right time.
Yeah.
But this is for the moments when you're like, I don't have the capacity to remove myself from my child,
Mm.
but I need something to help me.
Yeah. And this is going to be so beneficial to, well, you said 1 in 5 women
Yeah.
experiences birth trauma. So I do want to speak a little bit into that because we just had a conversation before we jumped on here, and I was speaking about I had two babies that were very quite early as well, and I ended up advocating for myself, especially after my experience in my second pregnancy of being poked, prodded by students. And look, I'm an ex-clinician. I was a student. I have been the poker and the prodder, and I've tried to be as compassionate and nurturing as I could during that time. But when you're pregnant, especially when you're in a state of, and for me, going into labor early was really, really stressful. There was that worry of, is my baby going to be
Yeah.
okay? I was having injections so that the baby's lungs would be okay, all of those things. And I, at the time, I didn't realize it. It wasn't until you said it. That was birth trauma. And then it went and escalated onto my next pregnancy where I refused for the actual birth of my last child to even have a doctor in there. I only wanted midwives. And because of the experiences that I'd had with doctors, not to say that doctors are not needed, there is definitely a place for them. And I really want to make sure that you know that I definitely, even though I work in the holistic realms and also you
Yeah,
do, there is a place for medicine.
there is.
But as you said, I actually had, and I wanted to say this so that you out there, because Jess's story is huge. It is something that probably needs to be spread everywhere. Well, it does need to get spread everywhere. But I don't want you to discount that things have not happened to you when you have been either pre-birth or even postpartum. I've heard some pretty horrific
Yeah,
stories postpartum as well. And that your story is not one of birth trauma.
that's
So,
right.
did you want to add anything to that at all?
It's understanding that anything that can impact you during your birth, any feeling, any sadness that is anything at all, that is considered birth trauma. It doesn't matter what the situation was. It could be the fact that someone interrupted, whilst you're birthing, and that could be traumatic to you. So that is you, that is your valid point of going through birth trauma, and you need to be heard and understood and seen so that you can be able to identify it and maybe identify your own reactions through trauma, because there's 4 reactions for trauma, and understanding what your body is processing and going through.
What are the 4 reactions?
So there's like the fight, flight, freeze, and dissociate.
Okay. Yes.
So
That makes total sense. I'm just thinking back to my experiences,
Yep.
and yeah, I totally get that. Wow. See, these are all of the things we don't know. These are the things that will be fantastic for you if you're wanting to go and delve further into this, especially with the course that you're creating at the moment. This could be a really just the perfect healing way of healing
That's right.
by going and either listening to these podcasts or
Yep.
going through the beautiful modules that you're creating at present. Thank you for sharing
That's all right.
that.
Yeah.
I'm sure it doesn't get any easier for you to share your story, because that story is always going to be there.
It is.
And also, um, thank you also for sharing that what is your trauma is not someone else's trauma.
That's right.
It's really important that we realize that we all have a different threshold.
That's right.
You basically had to raise your threshold 700% during that time. Even now, you would be, and you will be, I guess, for the rest of your life.
I will.
Yeah.
For the rest of my life.
Yeah. And Hawaii is just delightful. Oh my gosh, he's delicious.
Oh, Sammy's met Hawaii.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Oh, and you are the most beautiful, tender, loving of mothers. And I would highly recommend, if you are pregnant or in your postpartum stage, that you go and see Jess or one of the other girls and just get totally loved upon. Even when she talks to you, you feel like you're getting loved.
Yeah. Everyone deserves to be loved. That was my thing as well. I remember as a child, I was thinking about this the other day, and I would say everyone is on the exact same level. No one is better than anyone, because everybody deserves to feel loved. They do, because love changes everything. Love is what rules. So,
and that's why I always say, only love.
That's yes, you
It's
do.
why I say
Yes,
it. Only love.
you do.
Only love. So I also wanted to talk a little bit. We had a talk before about this. So Jess got the oil cassia, and I read to her the meaning of cassia, and the bit that really stuck out, I think for you more than anything, was cassia assists individuals in discovering their innate gifts and talents. It invites them to let their light shine and live from their true self. So we were talking a little bit about self-trust, and I mean, this whole journey for you, this journey of um, looking after other people and looking for other avenues where you can love upon people as well.
Yeah.
It really has required you to look inside yourself and start to trust yourself, hasn't it?
It has. It has. Knowing, as we were talking about before, knowing, looking after pregnant women, I was scared of, I never wanted to instill any fear in any of our pregnant women, because we are all about embracing them and empowering them, and them knowing that they can birth. Like they are made to do this. And so I never wanted any fear to be instilled in any of our mums. And that's why I don't talk about my experience, obviously, with our mums. But I was like, I know that I can share with the world ways of how to heal through such a traumatic experience. So I've finally learnt to trust in myself, and that this is somewhat my aligned soul path, part of it. And so I'm going to go with it.
Because you do everything so beautifully anyway.
I hope so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so.
I don't see anger. I don't see resentment. And I mean, maybe it's deep inside that it is there, but you do not show that. You
No.
you go back to love every time.
I do. Like, like I said, been through darkest times, but never once, even my dad, I remember going through hospital with my son and he's in ICU and intubated again. And he said to me, not once have you ever said, oh, woe is me, why is this happening to me? And I was like, I can't. Like, my son needs me. He needs to be seen. He needs to see love. And I can't change this. But I did also know back then that everything happens for a reason. And I know that he is here for a purpose, as well as me. Finally, finally realised I am too, as part of this. But for him to make an impact and change the world for what is happening in the system, and that's what we're going for.
And I'm just reading here, Cassia dispels fears and replaces it with self-assurance. And that's
Yes.
that is exactly what is happening for you. And there's opportunities coming here, there, and everywhere for you at the moment.
Yep.
And I think that they will just continue to come. I look at what you're doing now and what you have created. You are obviously in some way a bit of a manifesting queen, and I think that you can just
Try.
continue this. So I really want all of you mamas and dads out there that have
Yeah.
experienced all of anything that you've heard today, just even if something touched you, to as soon as Jess, I'll be putting up all of her handles and everything, but as soon as the podcast comes on, I'd really love to encourage you to follow along. There will be something there that will resonate for you.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that. And I know that Jess is going to have beautiful words of wisdom for people. She's obviously taken, and I have spoken about this before in other podcasts, she has made this something that has been for her instead of something that has happened to her.
Yeah. We all have a choice, and we can't with life, but how we see it.
Oh.
We have to. I refuse to be what they did. I just refuse to be down there anymore.
Yes.
Just living down in that situation. So
Yes.
just let it empower us and try and make an impact for those that need us.
Well, I think you're going to make a huge impact. I'm really excited for what is to come for you.
Thank you.
I really am. Thank you so much. I'm just trying to think, is there anything else? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that was it. I think that was
I think
the basic.
we've covered everything. And
yeah.
as you can see, this woman is just beautiful. She is the divine feminine. I really do believe that. And you work with the divine feminine every day. You work with all of these beautiful portals that are carrying these gorgeous souls that are coming into the earth. What a blessing to be able to do that each and every day.
It is. It truly is.
I know. And I know you know that, because when I look at your stories, I can feel the truth and the love coming from you.
Yeah, and I think we're really lucky with the girls that we have working with us as well, and they have that as well. And the feedback that I get from our clients, and because I always do a check in and see how they are, and they're like, "Had the most amazing massage," with Jenny or Lauren, and just feeling that love, knowing that we have a team of us now to be able to take care of more women is huge, and that's the impact that we're trying to make for that part of it as well, and that we can nurture you throughout pregnancy, birth, postpartum, motherhood, and your baby.
Yes, yes. So I'm going to put up a whole heap of handles. So Instagram, Facebook, etc. Remembering that Jess is located, or Maternal Grounding is located on the Gold Coast in Coomera.
Yes.
At I Am Healing, which is a beautiful space. It's got an incredible shop, but there's also a space for circle there. And then we have all of the practitioners are there also. And if you want to meet Jess or the other girls, I would just highly recommend. I cannot speak more highly of you. I love you so much.
Thank you.
You are beautiful.
Thank you, Sammy. What a
Thanks.
beautiful experience.
You are wonderful. So thanks for listening to Ley Lines. Looking forward to the next time we have another incredible, can they get any more incredible than you?
Yes.
Person on. I'll stop it. And make sure to subscribe down below so that you can listen to people like Jess and others that have beautiful messages that they're going and spreading and helping humanity with. Love you.